So it turns out that when I think about a robot, I think about something that's going to work in a factory, since I owned a factory for 29 years. But the general public, and maybe even most of you, when you think about a robot, the first thing that comes to mind is a something that might help you around the house, something that might do your laundry, something that might fold your clothes. It might be something that is going to help Granny get out of her bed and over to her bidet or whatever it might be. Anyway, in line with that, there's a video out yesterday that everybody's talking about that has a robot cooking a three-course meal. Of course, we got Scott to come in and help us understand why this robot is so good at what it does. Hey, Scott, great to have you here.
Hey Randy, Happy New Year. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Yeah, and I said great to have you here, but you're actually there. You're still in Europe. I think you've been more active on YouTube over the last couple of weeks while you've been in Europe than you are when you're home.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way. It was supposed to be a holiday, I thought, but I guess most people didn't get the memo, and it's been a very busy couple of weeks over here with a lot of things to talk about, and of course the opportunity to meet some of the European YouTubers over here, which has been great, as
Yeah.
well as some of the followers on John's channel. So it's been rather interesting couple of weeks for sure. And this video hit, one of the first big ones to come out in 2024 that looks like a certain form of embodied AI. It's it's basically it's sort of an open source robotic toolkit that some graduate students at Stanford put together and are able to demonstrate some of the capabilities of using it for training purposes. And it's rather amazing what they've literally cooked up
So to speak.
in a short period of time. That now this end of this gripper we're looking at might look a little bit familiar because if you remember, the same group from Stanford, I think about not quite a year ago, was also showing a bunch of telerobotic operations of these hands coming in and being able to do what were pretty intricate tasks. Some of them were like doing a zipper and then I think tying some knots and doing a few other opening cans of jars and all. And I was amazed at that time that they could do it and do it with what, and I'm not saying this to throw shade on them, really crappy hands. Okay.
Yes,
This,
yes,
this is like the de minimis robotic hand that you can have. And that is basically two opposing thumbs. I mean,
yes.
talk about, someone being all thumbs. That's all this robot has. It's just got the opposing thing. So that's about as simple as you can have, which means you don't really have quite the dexterity that you would expect. And that's why when they were doing things like zippers, I'm like, what? You can do that? And now, they've gone a little bit further and they put it on a mobile platform, as we'll see. They've actually taken a standard AGV that's used in warehousing and created a frame and put two robotic arms on there that you're able to purchase in the marketplace. I think they're Viper X, and they're a 6 degree of freedom, kind of small robotic arm, about the size of a human arm, which is nice. So it's very, very similar. And then they also have some teleoperation. So they have two other robot arms that are attached to this frame that are used to do the telerobotic control. So an operator is able to stand very close behind them and through this telerobotic arm be able to manipulate the other arm. So it's kind of a one-to-one kind of thing where you have an arm that you're moving around, the other one moves. They're close enough to be able to see it, and from it they're gathering the training data, and they're saying, "Oh, this can now be used to do the training." And they've created um, a parts list on
Oh.
all you need to buy, and so this whole kit costs around. Oh, you tell me how much you think it costs.
Let's see. I don't know. 500 bucks.
No, the arm. So you get the arms, and
Yes.
you got two arms, the
Arms.
telerobotic arms, the control systems, the frame, the bases
Okay,
going
okay,
around.
okay. Okay,
Whole thing,
$5,000
$5,000 per arm.
per
So each arm
arm.
is around
Per arm.
$1,000. And then everything, the end of arm tooling, the 3D printed parts, all that stuff, total came around $31,000,
31,000.
which is not too bad considering most robots' arms will be started at $30,000 and go up.
I see.
And here you have, depending on how you want to look at it, four arms. I mean, two of them that are actually doing the task, and another two that are used for telerobotic control, and then the base, which is mobile and able to move around. And from what they said is that they've gone through and with something like 50 demonstrations, they're able to learn these particular tasks and do them pretty well, and then play them back. So what we are seeing when you see the video, and I'm not sure which video, because there was a bunch of them out there that they posted, one showing a variety of different tasks.
No,
And then
those,
if you actually go to some of their links, you can look at the individual ones at real time. So
okay.
I think they may have been playing them at 6 times or real time speed. And let's see what this one is. Okay, manipulating the egg and stirring it, going ahead. That's so it's using the Aloha mobile robot platform. And it's figuring out how to grab the egg properly, because think about it, it's pretty tricky to be able to pull the egg out, and then notice how they do the regrip there to get it.
Yeah.
Clever
Yeah.
way. Now I've been told people who know how to break egg and stuff like that, they say that's the trick, is to break it on a surface like that
Oh, I
and
see.
then be able to bring it up. Yeah. So I mean, normally you think you break it another way, but that turns out to be kind of a shortcut way of being able to break an egg pretty reliably each time. And yeah, I mean, a certain amount of manipulation that it's able to do, which was trained at first telerobotically. But then the idea is that the system understands it, so that if you say, okay, go in and make me an omelet now, not everything's going to be in the same position. It will understand what to do and
Right.
put it together. And that's pretty impressive, especially when they did it with maybe only 50 examples, I think, of each task. It's a pretty small number for them to be able to get that and then have it go around. And you'll see some of these tasks require mobility of the platform. In this case, they decided, let's keep it simple. Let's not try to do walking or anything like
Right.
that. Let's just put it on a mobile base. And right out of the gate, the mobile base is able to give them walking speed.
Of course.
So
Yes.
they're already at the speed you typically would. So you're not talking about something that's really slow and trying to learn that, because they are not worried that much about having a completely faithful humanoid bot. They're trying to say, here's a learning platform with arms that are very human-like in a way. The hands aren't exactly human-like, yet remarkably, it's able to pick up what. Well, in this case, it's not observing training videos. It's actually being done through telerobotic control to be able to do it. What would be interesting to see is if in the future, through training videos, whether they would be able to do the same thing. In other words, have a have a cook come in here and do it, get the video of that, and then bring it back and see if the bot itself would understand it. So they're not doing anything like that. So they're not observing a human and
Okay.
then figuring out, oh, okay, how do I mimic what the human is doing? Especially if you are not kinematically identical, because the hands are clearly very different. But
Okay.
they do have two arms and the ability to sort of move around.
So they're
Uh,
trained. So let me understand this. They are doing the actions slowly using the actual robot, and
yes,
then doing 50 versions of that. And then out of those 50
yes,
versions, it makes decisions about which is the smoothest
that's
way.
that's enough. That's enough training data. So the training data is that there's an operator, and on their website, there was a link to their website and a paper discussing that. And what you'll see is that on this mobile platform, and I think some of the videos we have here, we can kind of see the mobile platform,
Yes,
but they've removed the
at the end.
telerobotic
Yes.
arms.
Yes.
Right. Now, there are these two telerobotic arms that you can mount onto the platform. So an operator is standing right behind the system and then is grabbing these arms and is moving the arms around. And with that is able to robotically or through teleoperation, be able to control the different manipulators to get them to do what they're supposed to. And then that information is being fed into whatever machine learning model that they have to be able to capture what those tasks are, and then be able to I wouldn't say replay it, but be able to do the same task later on, even though the configuration might be a little bit different. So I think one of them was a cleaning up operation of cleaning up a wine glass and all that. So they taught that many times, and then when there's a wine glass that needs to be cleaned, it's able to go over and do it. And the same thing here with the different cooking um, menus that they're putting together here to be able to put that all together now. So I think here they are showing, okay, those are
Oops.
just the covers that are putting on the hands. Yes, and then here's the paper.
Oh, here we go. Here it shows
And
the.
okay, so you can see
Oops.
the telerobot. Yes. So the arms are in the back. and you see they're kinematically similar to the arms in front. And with that, they are able to get all the training data and move it around. And you use that as capture, and then you use that as the training set for your AI to hopefully learn the task and then figure out how to do them. And this could now Google was doing something like this with the RT1 project, but I think they were doing it mainly with video data.
With video
So
data.
they're training data actually looking at videos of this as opposed to being teleoperated kind of training data. Tesla is probably doing a combination of all these things. So we know that we've seen that they are doing kind of a kind of teleoperated control of tracking what a human operator is doing, moving around, not using an arm like this, but doing it more like the Kinect that you would have for a video game or something like that,
Oh,
where
yes.
you're tracking the hand is moving around, and from that they are doing the math to figure out, well, this is what the arm would be doing if there was a real arm there. And then also supplementing that with other training data, which could be video input data. So these different streams. So it looks like here they are primarily using the teleoperated data for their training set, which is able to give them, does a pretty good job. It looks like, and I don't know what the variability can be like. Obviously food, every time you make something, the food you're putting in there, the ingredients are a little bit different.
Sure.
So if it comes out without any error each time, that's also pretty impressive. Again, this is something that they were trying to teach before of being able to unzip a bag, and then was manipulating a knife pretty well there, and understanding how to drop all those things in. So even with hands that are not that great, it's rather remarkable what you can do.
So Scott, obviously the thing that impresses me about this and that makes me just get all confused is that multiple people, I'm not sure, I can't remember our last conversation where you were on this, but everybody's saying, okay, look, we think the hardware is ready to go. I got a couple of people, a couple of folks who are pretty respectable who are saying they think that particular bot that we saw in the Gen 2 situation might not be quite the final. But, I think your first thought was that might be the final because they put the brand on it. But that the hardware is great, are probably ready, but that it's the software that's the problem in order to be able to make the thing do useful tasks. I'm looking at something by a bunch of college students that was, put together in a garage that is doing great tasks with really, really de minimis, as you point out, in terms of hands, in terms of sensors, in terms of vision, all the kinds of things that the Tesla bot has much superior capabilities in terms of both the manipulators and the input data and the sensors. Why are we thinking that we're so far away from Optimus being able to do useful tasks in a factory?
Well, I think it's ready. And first, I just want to correct you. That wasn't a bunch of college students.
Oh, okay.
A bunch is technically 5 or more. It was only 3.
Okay.
So sorry.
I see.
Yeah, you can't call them a bunch. It was
Hi,
a trio.
Scott. We're losing you on the camera there.
Oh, sorry about that. And then yeah, and so you can see they can do quite a bit. And my suspicion is they may be already doing quite a lot, but they're just not announcing it.
I
I'm
see.
sure they're already doing complicated tasks like this, and they're probably doing quite a bit. And it's just that they're not really ready to announce it to anyone. And part of the reason for that is that this doesn't come completely out of the blue or is a big surprise that we're able to do something like this already with these bots, because we saw what Google showed back in the springtime with the RT2 and the training set that they had and how they were also able to get it to do tasks that it had never been trained on.
Yes.
Just based on what
Yes.
it sort of understood about the world.
Yes.
We've seen, of course, what the Gen 2 Tesla bot can do now, as well as the video before that of showing, picking up the blocks and moving those things around. And then we, of course, have the sort of the recent announcements coming from the CEO of Figure and saying that, wow, he thought the AI was what was going to be limiting it, and
Yes.
that it wouldn't be until the end of the decade that you would really start to see anything because it would take that long to train the AI. And now he's like, it almost feels like the AI is ahead of the hardware,
Yeah.
which is a rather remarkable statement. And of course, the other thing is I don't know how they're doing their training data either, because I'm not aware of what they have access to as far
Sure.
as training compute. So it seems like there's probably been a lot of breakthroughs in training for embodied AI that a lot of us may not be aware of, or if we read the papers close enough, we may realize that, oh, of course it's coming, because we can see it out there in the papers. All these groups are reading the same papers.
Right.
They're all implementing the same strategies. They're all trying to figure out how this is going to work. And it seems like there may be certain breakthroughs with the embodiment, because if you remember, John Gibbs has kind of argued for quite a while that, you really need to have the embodiment to get AGI. That's his feeling,
Right.
is that, without that somehow it will do it. And it may be that as you start to go multimodal and have multiple inputs, they reinforce themselves in the training. They don't make the problem harder. Might be that they actually make the problem easier.
Yeah.
And just an example of if you look at a large language model, it understands language, but it really understands language based on tokens. So we think the large language model understands the letter A. No, the letter A is like a token in there. It's almost like within any computer, well, not even a large language model, A is represented by the ASCII value, I think 32. Okay. So it doesn't know what an A looks like. It just knows that when it's time to display something, it calls some routine to display something that the humans will recognize as an A. And that when we hit the A on the keyboard, we are not sending an A to it, but we're sending, the ASCII value of 32.
Right.
So internally, the computers have always just been dealing with letters as tokens. And
Sure.
then the large language models take it a little bit further, and that those tokens then become words and stuff like that. So they never really comprehend what the letter A, B, C, or D looks like.
Sure.
It's just a token to them. And they lay those tokens down to come up with something. And they've talked about trying to do like sign reading and stuff like that for large language models. And the way they do it is like, well, let's use this OCR stuff we have, the optical character recognition, where we can have another neural net that's able to recognize characters on a sign and turn that into text. And now we have that turned into text. We can send that text over to the large language model. And of course, when we take that text, we then convert that text into the tokens that the large language model understands. So you're kind of going through all those things, which means there is a complete disconnect. The large language model cannot actually relate that to any image that it's seeing. It's completely out of its scope. It's just like,
Yes.
oh, you want
Yes.
me to understand what this text means, and I will tell you what it means. And whereas the optical character recognition, all it does is it's able to recognize these shapes and kind of say what they are to convert them to text, but it doesn't really understand the meaning of the
Right.
sign at all.
Right.
So
Right.
both of those nets are completely so separated, and they don't know what's going on. And now they're talking about kind of with the multimodal is the large language model won't do this optical character recognition. It's going to look at the sign, it's going to look at the picture, and it's going to read the words on the picture, and it's
Right.
going to understand them.
Right.
And it's going to finally, probably the first time in its existence, understand the concept of the letter
Right.
A and the
Okay.
letter B and what fonts mean.
Yeah.
You could just see all those different things. And somehow that may give it a better understanding of the world that you're actually operating in. And if you then take that to the next logical step of like these, robots and training it in the physical environment, that it may be that they're learning much faster than we expected, just because combining the two makes it a lot better. And
Yeah.
there's some different techniques that they're using. The ETH is using this technique called curiosity, where they're
Yeah.
changing the way the rewards are done, and they're able to get their bot to learn things much faster. Again, it was how it was able to stand up and figure out how to open up a door to get into a room, just through pure curiosity.
Curiosity.
And that's
Yeah.
the way intelligence works. And you've probably seen it, this thing where dogs and parakeets and even octopi are able, or sorry, I think it's octopods. It's the plural is octopods, uh, that they've been able to figure out how to like open things up
Yeah.
just for the matter of time. Trial and error. They have a certain amount of curiosity. They
Raccoons.
have this
Raccoons are
incentive.
Raccoons
Oh,
are
raccoons.
very
I
good
mean,
at
they
it.
know it's in there. They have kind of this goal. They know
Yeah.
there's gonna be a reward in there, and they just figured out, and they all know how to get these things. Horses. You've seen these things, and met this guy. They've been trying to work on a way to keep these horses from being able to figure out how to open up their gates. I
Yeah.
mean, some of them are just so clever, And so this just shows you the nature of intelligence. If you give it some of these aspects on how to explore its world,
Yeah.
they learn very, very quickly, and that's what it seems like is going on here. And probably what we're going to expect is that 2024 is going to be wild because there's going to be one video after the next where again at this point we're really going to be saying, man, that's got to be CGI, doesn't it? It just seems too good, and then we're going to have to look at it and then finally say, yeah, I guess that's the real thing. So
So,
it's
yeah, so Scott, the only other person, the only other, so I'm so focused. I'm a factory guy. You are too, in a way. You've been spending most of your career working those factories, and as a factory guy, I really want to see this thing operating. I want to see it producing good. I want to see it being able to be sold or rented or whatever the case may be. So that's my focus. And the only other objection besides, some people say, oh, it doesn't walk fast enough, whatever. Some people say, oh, it won't have enough capabilities. And then we look at this thing. The other one somebody suggested the other day is that the 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 it's not about the walking speed as much as it is about something you and I talked about maybe on the first video we ever did together, which is the combination, the ability to manipulate the upper body, picking up things, laying things down, cutting things, throwing things, whatever, and still maintain balance while it's walking, while it's standing, while it's sitting. All of these things take, a fair amount of learning to be able to stay the course as various limbs are going in various different directions. Do you think that is still an issue, or do you think that's also something? No, you don't think that's an issue?
no, that when you look, I mean, even going back to the Gen 1 Optimus video with the Namaste, where it was doing the yoga tree, um, you could already see that the entire body was in it. And again, when we were looking at the Gen 2 video, you'll notice how natural and human-like all those movements are like. So it's getting the coordination of everything simultaneously, and there won't be any balance issues. They'll be able to react quick enough. So I don't see that as being an issue of them falling over. And there's still plenty of jobs that you don't have to lift a 50-pound weight.
Yeah.
You might be talking about something, a lot lighter than that, and which the movement times are not that strenuous. And again, it could be that, oh, okay, Optimus is not quite fast enough for this particular job, so let's put a second one in there,
Yes.
and
Right.
the two together can do it.
Okay. So then the other thing that you and I talked
Excuse me
about,
there.
sure, bless you. The other thing that you and I talked about, I want to say it was 3 months ago, we did a long video on this, was the whole idea of socialization and training in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
So I came up with my theory. My theory was that probably would need, one trainer from Tesla to go into the
Mm-hmm.
workplace, and probably would take no more than a day and a half of actual hands-on in a specific situation to train the Optimus, as well as to train the workers who would be around the Optimus. Is that does that based on years and years of you installing automated equipment, even sophisticated automation? Does that seem reasonable that maybe a day and a half to train on specific tasking?
Yeah, on the specific tasking, normally you have people who are technicians, and they may go to like a full-fledged training course where they're learning a lot about how the robot works, and that takes a little bit longer. It might be like a week-long course where they're going through that. I think the idea of this is it shouldn't be. If you require a week to train the people who are going to be using the Optimus, you've already done something wrong. It's sort of like when someone buys a car that they have to now go take a really week long course to figure out how to drive the car. It's like no, it's like if you already know how to drive one car, you should know how to do another. Um, and it should just be able to do it on its own. Should be able to show it,
Right.
and then it goes on and so on. And so I think the majority of the workers, yeah, they probably would be a half day or day kind of orientation of like, well, this is what a new worker, their coworker is going to be like. Here's what to expect. Here's what to do around them, just to make sure they all are aware of it. And then you may have a few specialists that need to go off and take some more advanced training courses because they may be doing preventive maintenance and stuff like that. What happens if the bot does this? What happens if it does that? How do we make sure it's properly charged? What areas do we need to clean out? Is there anything that, any lubricant you need to apply in certain joints
Right.
once a week or something like that? What kind of environments are we allowed to put it in? And again, what's it like to be able to train it? So I think it's something that probably will be able to come pretty quickly
And
and, should not require a long time once it's done right. The first couple, yeah, it may take a while because even Tesla is going to be trying to figure this out, you know?
so, so Brad Adcock, I think is the company's name's Figure.
Yeah, Brett.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brett Adcock, and it's figured. Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So he said he's already got people in factories with GoPros,
Mhm.
one or more GoPros. I don't know whether he got one on a helmet and one on a shoulder or whatever, but he's already got people in factories with GoPros. They're already recording the tasks and then bringing back that as training material. So it would seem to me that Tesla is smarter than Brad. And Brett rather, Brett, and that they would already have people out there using GoPros or have actually the Optimi in the factory.
But they're doing that already, and we already saw in the video back in the springtime where they had one operator who was wearing a headset with the cameras on there.
Yes,
And so rather than using, a GoPro, which is just going to be a single point of view, they're using a camera suite which is identical to what Optimus is seeing. So
gotcha.
that would make the training a lot easier. Is like, oh, okay, this is what you should expect to see.
Yes,
And we could see also in the job listings, there were listings for jobs like that. You
I
know
see.
that
Yeah,
and as you can see, both Bradford Ferguson and I were really upset because we looked at that description to be a teleoperator, to be able to go through and show that Optimus these various training sets,
yes,
and we had to be, I think, between 5'7" and 5'11".
I see. I
Yes,
need to.
so
I need to
Bradford's too
apply.
short and I'm too tall.
I have to
Yeah,
apply. I'm
you can
5'9".
apply.
I'm 5'9 3/4". I'm perfect.
Okay, actually, that is probably even a better fit because Optimus is 5'9", so
Yeah.
they have like plus or minus 2 inches from what the Optimus size is, which is why I didn't want to make it too much bigger than that. And you have to be able to lift, I don't know, there's like up to 50 pounds and be able to, to work for 8 hours a day.
Oh, that
But
could be the
yeah,
problem. I know I don't work 8 hours a day.
yeah,
I have to work at least 10 or 11. So that's
yeah. Okay, okay, okay. Yeah.
interesting. Okay. So, so I come back to my question. It's driving me crazy. This is going to be a breakthrough. Optimus, any kind of robot that actually can work in a factory, is going to be a breakthrough of monumental, maybe since the wheel, since the printing press, since I can't think, since email, and then if you want to say since Chat GPT, but it's going to be on a level that we've never seen. Why would Tesla go slow? Wouldn't they
Oh, they're
be
not going slow.
okay? So if they
They're they're
have,
they're
so if they
they're a
have the
publicly
hardware,
traded company.
so if
Remember?
they,
And what Larry always talks about is like the blackout period at the end of the quarter.
yeah.
So who knows? There may be some things they cannot talk about until the 24th or after.
So because if they can do what we just saw this robot do in terms of preparing a meal, if they can walk at a mile and a half or 2 miles or whatever, which we think we saw with Gen 2, if you don't think there's a balance problem, if we think that it can be trained in a half a day in a factory, if we think that the hardware looked like it was all ready to go, all they need to do is get the lines started and start making robots. You said you thought you could make one and a half a day in a garage. In again, I think our very first video together. It seems to me that we should be looking at thousands, if not tens of thousands, in even the first half of next year, much less the second half.
Yeah, yeah, I would think so. I would
Okay.
definitely think so that
Okay.
we should be seeing if we don't hear something by the summer that it's starting to do useful work in the factories, then I would be wondering what's going on, what's taking them, or they just really don't want us to know.
Yeah,
It,
right.
I expect these things to be doing useful work already, and my theory has been that the S and X lines are underutilized. They're only running one shift,
Yeah.
and so they could be doing second shifts on there. Um, I was looking at the S and X numbers, and I noticed they did increase last
Huh.
quarter.
Yeah.
They but they had basically been down.
Right.
So it's actually the numbers that they're at are not greater than they've ever been. So I think they usually they've been able to do like combined about 20,000
Yeah.
in a quarter. In the previous quarter, they were down around 13 or something, and then now it's up around 18. So that increase, that 50% increase, quarter over quarter, was just because well the lines can do it. You know, I don't think it's because they ran a second shift and that second shift included Optus. So I could be a little bit wrong. I mean, maybe Optimus added one or two to that, but I think that they have enough spare capacity there that that is where you would be doing the training. And the other thing is, I think not only is there spare capacity, I think there's a lack of automation because
Yeah.
many of the
Yeah.
places where you would expect Optimus to go into have already those jobs have already been taken away by the
Right.
Gigapress,
Right. Right.
right? So you used to have all those spot welding robots. Remember, hundreds of spot welding
Yeah.
robots. Well,
Yeah.
those spot welding robots had to be fed,
Yeah.
and they were fed by human operators. So not only were those robots put out of a job, but those human operators are put out of a job, which means now there's no place for Optimus to go in and replace any human operators, except on a line that doesn't have the gigacasting.
Right. Well, Tom Zhu, though, did say that he thought that there would be about 5,000 in Giga Mexico on the unboxed.
Yes.
So that'll now be in Austin, at least on the startup. So it may be that they've already got some of these guys down in a really private area of Austin working on unboxed projects or whatever. But I'm so glad, Scott, that you're making me feel so much better today because I was beginning to feel like all alone out there, like the like
Well,
the
you weren't alone. Sandy also, he,
he
a
did
week ago,
he did
also said based on what he's seen
yeah
and what his knowledge of what goes on the factory floor and the kind of manual operations there, there is no reason why Optimus could not be doing it. And he says for sure
yeah
it's going to be doing useful work in 2024 based on
man.
that. So we're not quite alone. I know Larry is being a bit more cautious, but I can understand that we don't know everything that's going on, but from what I can tell, it looks like we should be seeing many robots, not just Optimus, but probably be seeing a lot of others doing some rather interesting things in the next year.
There you go. Well, all right, Scott. As always, it is amazing to